Hello, my name is Tim Bernard, and this is Beyond the Headline, where we take a much different look at the world that is going around us from the bought-off press. Here we are late in the election cycle here, and the lies are flowing fast and furious, and you can truly see that it's really just one system with one agenda, and only one person is attempting to really fight against it. And we're going to get into some detail on this. There's far more articles and videos at my website than I could possibly discuss here. This is for my TV show, because it's just another avenue to reach more people. But I'd urge you to go to bsfreepress.net, Big Sky Free Press, and check it out, because we are not the mainstream media, where they are paid millions of dollars to be nothing more than propaganda ministers. And that's on both sides, whether it's fake news, Fox News, or the other channels. And they're losing so much credibility now that they're beginning to have to report on some of the real news. But they're even trying to spin that and bring that down as much as they can, and not reporting on the gargantuan stories that have been coming out in the last couple of weeks, not by them, but by independent, alternative media outlets. And here's one. I like these couple of cartoons where they're, I think this sort of says it all for itself. Here, you virtually hear nothing about these scandals. Now, the email scandal got pushed back onto the front page, but of course that's much less of a scandal than which is being put out by this fella James O'Keefe in Project Veritas, who put people inside the campaign and got footage of them bragging about disrupting Trump rallies, causing violence. I mean, imagine if the Trump people were caught pulling the stunts that the Clinton crime family have been pulling off. I mean, it's just bizarre what is going on, and how they are demonizing this guy for just simply telling the truth. And this picture here, this is one of the gals got caught giving questions to Hillary Clinton. I mean, there's so much crap that went on around the debates even. But this is what we should expect. This is the CIA director under Ronald Reagan will know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. And they've taken over. It's complete. But there's still a few of us who are pushing through and won't become a part of the system. And that's why Hillary brought up her fun camps. I played that clip because it was back in March of 2015 that she brought up these fun camps. We've, of course, done stories over the years what these fun camps really are. Larry Grathwohl infiltrated and found out. We also have the documents, which are permanently located on my website, which you can find. And George Soros, a Nazi collaborator, proud of it, bragged about it on a 60 Minutes interview he did, openly funding the race wars that they're trying to get going with his Open Society Institute, Media Matters, well-funded, paid organization. But for me, nothing. And right now, after a very busy day, all day, from praying for the poor souls at Planned Parenthood, Mass, other prayers, another event trying to help people, wake people up within the church. It's now a little after 1:30 in the morning here to try to get this done, because I have to go back to work at a job that pays me. Monday morning I'll be up at 5 in the morning getting rolling for that job. But we are the resistance, the V from the Vietnam War, also from the V that was marked during World War II by the French partisans against the Vichy government. And that's what we have now. Our traitors within, on both sides, both Democrats and Republicans, they own both parties. They just pretend like there's two sides, and you can really see who the rhinos are. Though some of the globalist Republicans are siding with Trump so that if he is able to get in, they'll still have traitors in the midst. But here's a nice light story that I found to get away from what we're going to be talking about most of this hour. A heart recipient walks the donor's daughter down the aisle. There are still many good people. Most people just can't handle this, what I deal with, and many of our leaders cannot handle this. But of course, they want to be your leader and get up and talk and suppress anyone that wakes the people up, because then they might have to be woken up and do something about this instead of looking the other way. And the other side openly writes books about it. This is one that's free online. It was written back in the early 70s, where it talks about using the climate change issue. Here's the world divided up into 10 sections already, just like it says in the book of Revelation. And of course, most of the preachers are going to poo-poo this, or they'll tell you that you're going to be raptured away, or whatever. Irregardless of, you should be fighting this system because it is real, it is killing us now, it is silent weapons for quiet wars. And I'd urge you to take a look at that. That's just one book. Here's another book, Tragedy and Hope. I've shown this before, written by Carol Quigley. Here's a quote from it: "The powers of financial capitalism," which is not really capitalism, it's financial fascism, because they want to control industry and the government, "had a far-reaching plan, nothing less than to create a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole." And this guy was championed by Bill Clinton as one of his mentors in his first inaugural address. But like I say, it's both sides of the story. That's how this game is played. And in that book, they talk about using climate change. I have the, well, they don't call it climate change, the climate issue. Remember, back in the 70s, it was global cooling, then it was global warming, and now, because it's cooling again, they're going, well, it's just climate change. It's your fault that the climate is changing, even though anyone who studies history knows that the climate has changed throughout history. And of course, their premise for this, and I've talked to the leading scientists in this personally, is that the sun has no effect on this. It's like stagnant. But the sun ebbs and flows. We know virtually nothing about the sun. We're so crude in our measurements of the sun that we look at its output by looking at sunspots. And it's at an unusually low period, which tends to mean cooling. It's not as active. But, and we showed you that one huge sunspot, like the whole thing was collapsing in on itself for a while. That was wild. But anyway, there's so much ice up there. And remember, it was going to be free of ice, is what it was supposed to be already. That was their predictions. I mean, look, they can't predict storms that are a couple hours out. Does anyone really believe that they can predict 10 years, 20 years, 30 years into the future? Only God can do that. And most of these people that are promoting this are the devil's children, either openly or by just, they've placed themselves as gods. Secular humanism, we call it. Those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. And the this goes on. This is Bohemian Grove. It's one of the most popular things. That's why I keep talking about it, because most people don't know about it still. They do a mock sacrifice of a child every summer there. All sorts of our leaders, presidents, leaders of industry have been there and spoken there. Just type in Bohemian Grove. You'll find more information than you want. And this is where they do the mock sacrifice of a child. This is where they bring the child in an effigy. And we've got the priests and all these guys. And then all the people are on this side of the lake over here, looking across the lake at that owl. That's right out of the Old Testament. Molech is what that's called. Here's young Italian priest find exorcism too scary. Well, let me explain something. And all priests the majority of priests do not talk about the devil. When the devil now, this is common knowledge if you study anything about what's going on over the last 120 years in the Catholic Church. The whole reason for the prayer to the Archangel Michael was because of Pope Leo XIII and his vision of God and the devil having a conversation. And the church was placed in the position of Job. If you remember the story of Job, if you don't, look it up. J-O-B, Job. And he gave him a period of time to destroy the church. And he's doing a very good job. Because we are all under attack by at least one demon, unless you've got some dispensation from God because of some problem mentally or some other problem that you have. You are under attack, period. California passes a bill, the Planned Parenthood backed, and it criminalizes reporting on Planned Parenthood and selling body parts. But this is, God lets us know just how disgusting our society has become. And will anyone rise up and say anything about it? The silence is deafening. But this is what we were told hundreds of years ago. Here's an archbishop. Well, Trump and Clinton, neither is clearly better than the other. Well, Clinton is a neocon who wants to start World War III, a total globalist. The globalist, if you talk about end times or anything, well, we don't have to believe that. That's prophecy. No, let me just explain something. This is what's going on. They're setting up a global government, the UN, the IMF, World Bank. I mean, we're about to lose the dollar as a world reserve currency. And that, I mean, they plan on hurting us bad. I don't have time to get into all of that right now, especially this early in the show. If we have time, we'll get into a little bit more later. But let's just look at some of what is going on for the people that, don't worry about everything. Christians are forced to hide their Bibles amid migrant Muslim death threats. Don't worry about it. Bring them in. It's not Christian, our leaders say, if you don't bring them in. Who the hell are you kidding? Who do you think you're conning? Catholic-run clinics dispensing contraceptives and supporting abortion politicians. 98% of political donations by the Catholic Relief Services staff go to abortion advocates. Yeah. France, Muslims vandalize a church and leave photo of Nice jihad murderer on the altar. Okay. This is what's going on. Europe, and they want to do that here. There's already places where Sharia law is legal. That started this year, up there around Detroit and Flint, Michigan. And there's no-go zones. Here's HBO's The Young Pope paints His Holiness as bisexual, atheist, and an antichrist. Oh, and by the way, It is mainstream Catholic prophecy that the Vatican will lose the faith, though, and that it will become the seat of the Antichrist. Not by a pope, but the Antichrist will come to Rome and take over the Vatican. But that's a ways off. But by a ways, it's not that long. I mean, if you can't see the cashless society coming, you're not looking. And I was reporting on that more than a decade ago. It was even being proposed. But this is a big deal to get this thing out. But it's next year that Britain will do away with checks after 300 years of checks. And a lot of people are going to be for it. So you can't be Catholic and pro-abortion. You really can't even be a Christian. I mean, you'd have to not know who Jesus is to be support. These are some guys that are protesting Tim Kaine, but you could just as well protest Biden and Pelosi. Here's a Jesuit university hires an abortion advocate as head of student life. I mean, that is so bizarre. Here's a Jesuit high school bans alumnus for criticizing Tim Kaine because we're so liberal. But we don't believe in free speech. We believe in our speech. If you don't talk like us, then you need to go to Hillary's fun camps and they'll show you how to have fun. Have fun like Hillary and Bill like it. We'll get into that a little later. And here's another picture of the folks protesting our buddy. Here in Sydney, and the church is collapsing around the world. That's what the truth is. You look at the demographics, and they've known this for a long time, but they just want to keep the scratch coming in instead of making some major league changes. I mean, it's going to get really bad. And here, Catholics apologize to LGBT people. This was an article I did of, or that was done, I believe this is from a Breitbart article, why the left hates Mother Teresa of Calcutta. But hey, I know people also, the super trads, who can't deal with all the truth, but they can't, Mother Teresa was not holy enough for them. And then the left, of course, how dare you help the poor, really help the poor, and promote your faith. And of course, to the trads, she didn't do it enough. Here's the Pope cancels the Vatican audit, and Cardinal Pell is diminished. He's also taking on the liturgical side in the Vatican and getting rid of a conservative Cardinal Sarah. So we know what they're going to do. It's not looking good for this guy. I could say more stuff about him, but history will judge him, and we'll just see what transpires. He's doing a lot of things that are a little bit odd. And I pray for the guy every day. That's really all that I can do. I'm about to write him. I just hope he changes. That's all I can say. Anyway, a U.S. diocese backs Catholic school won't let parents opt kids out of salacious sex ed. We've done stories on this before. It's just a complete disgrace, but this is what we heard. This is what goes on in the secular schools, and they're pretty much allowing it to come into the Catholic schools. Here's by the numbers. This really tells it all. In 1960, there were almost 40,000 seminarians. In 2010, there were less than 5,000. That's not complicated math. That's a collapse. Take a look around in most parishes, not many young people. Now we have a lot in the traditional parish that I go to, but in the Novos Ordos ones that I go to, primarily older people, not a lot of young, I mean there are still kids, but not nearly as many as there were. And it says nearly 100,000 priests have left since Vatican II. Those are people that were full-blown priests who got out. Here's our buddy, the Nazi collaborator, George Soros again. He gets in a few times in this show. He exploits the Catholic as useful idiots. And that's how they look at us. I mean, those emails came out about Clinton, talking about how they wanted to take over the Catholic Church and force changes. Tim Kaine openly said, yeah, that's what we want to do. And then the emails talked about these guys are revolutionaries. But not revolutionaries, they're actually, and they're not progressives, they're actually regressives. If you look at history, they want to become more pagan. But this is what was told thousands of years ago by God, that this would happen. It's written down, and it's playing out. That's too bad if you don't like it. What, the first camp for transgender kids to open in Australia next month. Target spends $20 million on one-person bathrooms after the transgender stunt sparks a boycott, and they lost a ton of money on the boycott. Texas mother fights for her transgender 5-year-old to use the girl's bathroom while in kindergarten. And there's other stories I've done about little kids being forced into this transgender crap by their psycho parents. And Pope Pius V, all the evil in the world is due to lukewarm Catholics. And I meet them everywhere. Everywhere. Whether it's the traditionals, whether it's the Novos Ordos crowd, lukewarm Catholics they are the vast majority of those. The biggest majority are the ones who just have left. We're just gone. They're comatose Catholics. We have comatose, lukewarm Catholics. If you could just get those people just to even pray very much, the world would be so much better. Just to pray, let alone to pray and learn about how the world really works and to help to make it a better place. And here's a bishop. You'd never know which one he is there. But anyway, you know, to each their own. And the Bishop of Antwerp wants religious rituals for homosexuals and unmarried cohabitants. I sort of like that they use the rainbow flag, because you remember the story of the rainbow? Those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. Well, what's coming is a purification. That's just simply reality. Oh, and the book of Revelation, an interesting formation coming next year. Hasn't happened in 7,000 years. Right from the book, the 12th chapter of the book of Revelation, and I found out something even more interesting, is that Jupiter will be coming up, supposedly, we'll see, and will be right in the womb area for about 9 or 10 months, which is interesting. We'll see if that, how this all really plays out. And we know who's going to win. We know what's coming. And that it'll be rejected. This is 400 years ago, church-approved apparition. Satan will almost completely reign. There'll still be little pockets. God is setting up his little places. It talks about the Masons and the children and the general corruption of this time. And just look around at the decadence everywhere, even to little children. You saw those articles. I mean, this isn't coming. It's here. It's happening. And she specifically mentioned in that apparition 400 years ago, the 20th century. And the easiest way to understand the book of Revelation is Alpha and Omega, first and last. That's how the book is written. That's the key to opening it. This is Father Zudak. If you don't know who he is, he got that cross on his forehead in 1999. For those of you who have never read the book, we are marked first. Read it for yourself in the 6th and 7th chapter. The 4 angels have been sent to the 4 corners of the earth, and God goes, we need to mark our people. We are not going to be marked like He is, but we have to believe in God. But it's coming down to where you have to change sides, or choose sides. This is from La Salette, another church-approved apparition. The church will be eclipsed. At first, we will not know which is the true pope. Then secondly, the holy sacrifice of the Mass will cease to be offered in churches and houses. It will be such that for a time, 3.5 years actually, there will not be public services anymore. But I see that the holy sacrifice has not really ceased. It will be offered in barns, in alcoves, in caves, and underground. And that'll be the 3.5 years. That's you can read the 12th chapter of Daniel. That's also in the latter half of the 13th chapter of the book of Revelation. That's the middle, like I said, Alpha and Omega. In the middle is their time. And the 13th chapter is roughly the middle, where the 2 biggest antichrists are mentioned. Dwight Eisenhower, if you've never read his military-industrial complex speech, or what was his farewell address to the nation in 1960, I have a permanent link to it, both to a video and to the written script, where it talks not only about how this would get into this system that was being set up, would get into every facet of our life, from the church to the public square to education to business. Every facet of our life, this system seeks to control, and there's prophecies on that too. But also, he spoke of a scientific, technological elite. And there's some stuff about what Trump was doing or did, and believe me, there are some women that and he at least said some things that were crude, to put it mildly, and there was no excuse for that. But this is Hillary Clinton, while she was Secretary of State, grinding with this big mama, and look at how everyone's laughing. Look at this decadence. And remember Bill Clinton being caught on the plane at least 4 times, that Epstein's plane, and his little island of sexual perversion. I mean, give me a break. But this is who Hillary serves. She knows who her master is. Clinton Cash, I mean, if you haven't seen that documentary, it's free online. It's in my setup. I've got links to it. I mean, it's a disgrace what these people did in Haiti. Here's a former Haitian Senate president. The Clintons exploited the Haiti earthquake to steal billions of dollars from the sick and the starving. Then there's a cartoon about Hillary taking money out of one pocket and then giving it to her own foundation and saying, yeah, see, this is great. This isn't a doctored image. This is, I mean, it's doctored, but it was doctored by CNN, the Clinton News Network, when she got the thing like she's the goddess coming. And William Benny, a whistleblower from the NSA, said of course they have all of Hillary's emails, along with several foreign governments, I'm sure. The Clinton lies, no one wants to look at, but hey, Trump said something stupid again. And here's Soros, again, there's a video, I've got a clip of that. Trump will win the popular vote in a landslide because they're lying about the polls, and we've done stuff on that. But Clinton's selection as president, a done deal. So you can hear him say that. We'll see if he actually gets it, though, because there's a lot of people that are opposed to this. And not everyone's just going to roll over and be jellyfish. I mean, most people are. Even most people that are for Trump are jellyfish. But almost all the people for Clinton are jellyfish. And so it's going to be an interesting next couple months. That's all I got to say. And there he is, because the reason they hate Russia is because Putin is standing up for his country and not allowing the globalists to rape his country 6 ways to Sunday, which they are currently doing to America. I mean, they are destroying our country. And, I mean, it's just ridiculous. The great masses of the people will more easily fall victims to a big lie than a small one. That's Adolf Hitler. And that's what they do. Johnny Alaseed, here we again. And, you know, Clinton goes, yes, I'm going to plant 500% more. And they don't take any Christian refugees, only Muslim refugees. And they don't care about Muslims, they're just using them. They're using them to cause problems so that they can see it's problem, solution, reaction. They cause a problem, they offer the solution to get the desired reaction. What is the desired reaction? We need to lose our freedoms. I've told you for a long time that there's this huge war going on to get rid of the alternative press. People like me will be gone one day. Oh, and here's Bush and Michelle cuddling. Oh yeah, it's so nice. And here's an article from the New York Times. Oh yeah, scientists just say no to chemtrails. And then of course, one of the ways they do it is they call it a conspiracy theory. Well, that's how the world works. I mean, it's a conspiracy that in a few hours, the Seattle Seahawks are going to try to implement their plan to win whoever the hell it is they're playing. I'm not really sure. Oh yeah, they're playing the Saints. Oh, that's great. They're playing the Saints. but anyway, I mean, I've got stuff on my website where you can go to the scientists' symposiums where they discuss what they're doing in this geoengineering. Here's the CIA, where they got rid of a law, and so now when they get caught breaking the law, they just change the law to make it legal to break the law. That's what they do now. Here's some of the crap they've never stolen an election. Here's tens of thousands of fraudulent Clinton votes found in Ohio warehouse. Investigations going on there. Another article, how Hillary Clinton masterminded a global scheme to replace American workers. And Bush was every bit as guilty. Bush lost both elections. Obama probably lost the 2012 election. Here's a California woman is beaten over a Trump yard sign. I mean, that's the kind of people, these people are ruthless on the other side. But push is going to come to shove, I unfortunately suspect. Turkey, the legalization of sex with children. And that's what's coming here. They're going to legalize pedophilia here. They've got whole groups about it. They're not stopping with the gay, they don't care about gay marriage. They don't care about gays. They're just using them and that issue to divide between man and God and to destroy society, to set up their thing. Here's the Danish government capitulates to pressure and allows Muslim pedophiles to marry and keep little girls in Denmark as their wives. Right there. That's what's coming to America. Here's a deli owner charged with food stamp fraud, and his wife yells, America. Sure. Here's a Muslim migrant on the trail for beating, robbing, and drowning praying Christians on a boat. The Islamic scholar, Europe may be heading towards civil war. Well, that's exactly what the people who are playing the games above and behind the scenes want, is a civil war. And so what do they say? Let's just bring in more refugees. Instead of, why don't we just stop the wars over there? Why don't we help them over there? There's a bunch of jihadis there. On the State Department, the U.S. should rehabilitate and reintegrate foreign fighters back into society. What that usually means is give them a bunch of money, help them to get settled, and then we'll forget about them. And of course, then they can carry out false flag ops, whether they do or not, and we'll just, or we'll blame it on them and run them ourselves. And then we're going to take away your freedoms. That's how the little game is played. The UN could take over the internet October 1st, and they began the process of handing it over to the UN. And, if you think Obama is for freedom, you're clueless. See, the second internet is coming soon, courtesy of the blockchain. So this is an interesting story. We'll have to see how this all plays out. And they've also got the Internet of Things. They want everything connected. And everything will be controlled, and that's a prophecy, and that's not going to be good. You don't want to be plugged in. But hey, just go back into La La Land. Here's opium cultivation, 2001, and look at where it is now. It's up about almost 30 times what it was. It's tripled. A nation, here's this Jefferson, the guy who wrote the Declaration of Independence, a nation which expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, believes, expects that which never was and never will be. And the author of Brave New World, Aldous Huxley, and you should hear his speech to the Berkeley post-grad shrinks and psychologists. This is from 1960. You should read it, where he just talks about taking over and turning us into slaves. This is mild. He says, facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored. If you don't warn the people, their blood could be on your hands. That's why people really hate me, because I take away their ignorance. And especially leaders do not like to talk to me or deal with me. And here's Obama's buddy, the Black Lives Movement Matter. They put $30 million into that. Soros did. Because, that he's even walking and not in jail is crazy. Einstein goes, the world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. And then this is Hermann Göring's famous thing of how to bring people to war, how easy it is. The bankster takeover. This is a controlled plan. They write about it in their own words. Let me issue and control a nation's money, and I care not who writes its laws. The money changers sit on top. The people who Jesus kicked out of the temple, well, they came back in. Here's the redistribution of wealth. We make the rich richer, but it's for your own good. Because they own, these are the last three heads of the Fed. And what they're doing is a complete disgrace. And Kennedy was the last guy who really took on the Fed and was printing our own money. And so they blew him away in front of everyone. I mean, it's not even a close call. I mean, anybody who doesn't believe that, you simply know nothing about it, or you're a moron. Those are the only two things. You're either ignorant or you're just physically not capable of grasping 2 plus 2. But there are a lot of those people out there. Here is the Deutsche Bank, which we've talked about, and these are some of the bigger players that they have around the world that are tied into them. And they're on very, very shaky ground. But the biggest thing, of course, is the derivatives market, which was started and really ballooned under the Clintons. And I've got a great documentary done by PBS about Brooks Lee Bourne, who was almost alone fighting these people within, I believe it was in the SEC, but she was fighting that, and it was also Bill Clinton who got rid of Glass-Steagall, which is what the bankers wanted. And the bankers want Hillary in because she'll do whatever they want. All Hillary cares about is she gets another big black mama to grind with. Here's price changes in stuff, what from in the last 20 years. So you can see that food and housing and, well, in textbooks and college tuition, which is a complete joke. I mean, what's going on in college? I mean, these places are places of lower learning. I mean, I can't believe how much they pay to go to these schools now. Okay, here's and this is one of the big difference, as you can see from the last recession. This is 25 to 50-year-old males that are unemployed, and then the blue line is not in the labor force. So the actual number of people that are not working right now is very similar to the Great Depression. If it wasn't for all of the government subsidies, there'd be people starving everywhere. And it doesn't have to be like this. The economy doesn't have to be this bad. Now, it's good right here in Seattle. It's personally been fine for me. But for the marginalized and the lower and slower people, it is not good, especially in a lot of different areas of the country. And compared to what we were doing 8 years ago, we had a lot higher employment back then, and we had a lot less debt back then. Everything has gotten worse. More people on food stamps, more people out of work. We're barely and not even keeping up with the amount of new people that are coming into the workforce every year. It says, yeah, here the percentage of working age men that do not have a job is similar to the Great Depression. And here's just a look at it by different graphs. New business formation, household income by country, by county, trust in politicians, productivity, labor force participation, job creation, household income, entitlements versus investments. Not good signs. And this is an interesting little picture, and this is from the Bureau of Economic Analysis. America's $18 trillion economy. This was from 2015. And half of it, that's the dark blue areas. Boom. And you can see most of the country is not participating in this. It's really concentrated, and that's what they want. They want to concentrate it more and more and really get rid of the rural areas. And one way to judge how things are going, like one of the things we've been using a lot is the shipping, showing how shipping has collapsed for the last year. And now we see Hanjin, one of the largest shippers in the world, has just gone bankrupt. Well, another thing that people do when times get hard is they cut back on going out to eat. You can see the big dip here at the bottom of the last recession in 2009. So it's been going up and down and up. And right now it's not looking too good. It's heading back down again. And they're just trying to keep this thing going as much as they can for the election because they want to get Hillary in. It would have probably been different had they gotten what they wanted, they being the money changers, which was like a Jeb Bush against Hillary. Because that way, either way, they win. Because they own both parties. And, you know, I had some guy tonight say, well, so what, you think I should get out of the stock market? And I said, well, you know, I'd have an exit strategy. That's all I can tell you. And there's a lot of ways to, there was that show that was done, I forget what its name was. An Inside Job was one that went in and showed it, but there was that other one, and that guy had been on 60 Minutes, had that investment firm, and he saw it through the numbers. If you want to watch it from the Bilderberg stuff back in 06 and 07, they were saying that they were going to collapse it, and there was ample evidence in 2007. But even in 2006, they were openly writing about collapsing it in 2008. And now they've, remember a few years ago, we did the story on Cyprus and how they did bail-ins. And that's what's coming now, is bail-ins. It's not going to be a bailout. They're going to go directly into our accounts and take money out. And that's why they're really pushing for the cashless society now. I've talked about that from especially at the last World Economic Forum, as interest rates go negative. There'll be no incentive to keep your money in the bank if they're just going to take money for you to keep money in the bank. I mean, this is what's coming. It's going to be interesting. We're in for a wild ride because things are so much worse now than they were 8 years ago. By all of the metrics, no matter how you look at it. And it's a fake left-right paradigm. And false flag operations, I told you this is JFK. This is what happened to him right in plain view. But hey, don't worry about it. It was this one guy who really never fired a shot from behind. And you could clearly see his head going back. And GMO foods, another thing that they're pushing, especially in these trade deals. They're trying to ban them in Europe. But these are some rats that, and that's all they think of us, is we're just useless eaters. So go ahead and eat this crap. And here they are writing a book in 1953. This isn't a guy like me who's against it. Bertrand Russell was for the global elite. He was one of them. And he says, through diet, injections, and injunctions, will come from a very early age to produce the sort of character and the sort of beliefs that the authorities consider desirable, and any serious criticism of the powers that will become psychologically impossible. That's also what Aldous Huxley said. This is their plan. And I had a talk with some people tonight about fluoride in the water. Look at what one of the target organs is. The teeth. I tried to tell them that. I mean, they just couldn't believe it because this is how bizarre a world we live in. good is called evil, and evil is called good. That's what's going on. I mean, it's as plain as day. I mean, it says it's bad for you. The central nervous system. I mean, I've got a whole website just devoted to this stuff. Take a look at the documentary called The Culling. There are so few people that have the courage of this young doctor, Dr. Mullinex, who did a study on it. Then when she found out what it was doing to the brains of all of her rats, and she was going to out everybody, they ruined her career because she wouldn't change. She wouldn't lie for the people. And there's still many people like that. We don't hear about them because they own the media. They'll find plenty of people that'll just read the script, and they won't do any research. You just hand me a script, and I got a big pile of money, and all I have to do is read this. Okay, I'll do that. What, $1 million? Oh, you know, Megan, who's nothing more than Tokyo Rose, Megan Kelly on fake news, Fox News, I mean, she's asking for $20 million now to sell us out. What price is your soul, Megan? 20 million? I wouldn't sell my soul for 20 million. I wouldn't sell it for 100 million, not for $1 billion. But it's your choice. No nation could preserve its freedom in the midst of continual warfare. Another one of our founding fathers, James Madison. False flag operations. Nothing has changed. Speaking the truth in deceitful times is a revolutionary act from 1984, George Orwell. There's Building 7. Yep, it's still a controlled demolition. 3 buildings, 2 planes, do the math, it's not complicated. Architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, if you'd like to know more about it. 2017, they did this was a newscast from 10 years ago. And they're starting to chip people. Here's Australians, this is just from the end of August. Australians embracing superhuman microchip technology. Your body is no longer yours. Australia has become the first country to microchip its citizens. And actually, they've been microchipping people. We've been doing stories about it for more than a decade, actually. A survey shows 34% of Americans are excited about the prospect of microchips implanted in their brains. Look outside the frying pan, my friend. It's burning. 9/11, that's the anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi's very first protest. You can look that up on the Gandhi Institute's website. We must be the change that we wish to see in the world. This needs to be a revolution of love, not of hate. They will call it hate because we don't love their sin. We don't love their hate. Because it's like the old adage is, misery loves company. I don't want to go where you're going. I'll pray for you. I'll try to help you. And I'm going to try to stop you from taking more people with you. And I'm not going with you. Seek the truth and bear witness to it. And you'll find some trouble if you really seek the truth and bear witness to it. Here's an activist says her baby had to die in an abortion to help me build the life I want. There you go. What was this little girl's choice? This is a little girl. What was her choice? This is her body, not your body. You will be judged if you do not repent. Just have to ask for forgiveness. And of course, there's all this stuff about Black Lives Matter. This is just Planned Parenthood. Kills 266 unarmed black lives each day. The most dangerous place for a black child is in the womb. Over 50% of the pregnancies are aborted. That is eugenics. If you don't know who Margaret Sanger is, she's the founder of Planned Parenthood. You should read some of her stuff, her writings. Pro-life millennials launch middle school program to challenge Planned Parenthood's influence. there are some people standing up. Not many, but there are some people standing up. And actually more in the younger. It's the old people that are really just mush, quite frankly. This was a great screenshot from Google Earth and Google Maps. They took it down right away. But they happened to have this shot of a Eucharistic procession, this is in Denver, in front of the Planned Parenthood there. This would never happen in Seattle. Everyone's too gutless. I mean, there's a couple of priests, but the higher-ups would never let them do it. Jesus sees what's going on. The more that he has to get involved, the worse it's going to be for us. That's how the world has always worked. He gives us a grace to deal with the problems that we have, but if we refuse to deal with it, he will purify the earth. The earth is going to be purified. That's how it's always worked. Whether it was Noah, and it's just gone on down the line. They kicked Israel out of Israel a couple times. Now they brought him back. Oh, that's not a sign. Name another nation that has popped up after it's been destroyed. And especially Israel was destroyed for over 1900 years. Prayer and fasting can change the world. Without God, you're pretty much useless. Even if you know everything about the New World Order and what they're trying to pull. You're pretty much useless without God. And there's a lot of people that are Christians and in the movement, but they don't want to know God's plan. They want their plan, because that is the way of men. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the show. Get yourself educated. Educate someone around you. That's my website with tons of stuff. 50 to 75 articles probably every week. And some videos. Infowars.com is a good one. Drudge, Breitbart. One thing you can do if you want to contact me, a couple of ways, online or but through the mail. One easy thing you can do is tell people about the show 24/7 online, or on Thursdays 8 to 9, channel 77 for Comcast. And it's repeated at midnight to 1, and Friday afternoon from 1 to 2. And remember what my Sioux brothers say, Matakaweo we seen. We are all related. And go out, have a great week. May God bless you and your family, and we'll see you again. Goodbye.